Hey folks, Do the Dutch here with some more patch 6.0.2 content. Specifically we've got here is of course the temporarily partial run through of UBRS, also known as Upper Blackrock Spire, which has been revamped for Warlords of Draenor. So yeah, that's basically what it comes down to. Now what we've got here is of course a completely revamped. It's been completely changed. This time it's also been made a little bit more linear than the original, which was, to be honest, a complete labyrinth of staircases, hallways, and ridiculous amount of mobs. And this time it's been more streamlined. So we'll start with these trash mobs first. Now these trash mobs are actually quite dangerous because, as you can see, they already killed the healer. Now what we got more is, of course, they consist of different kinds, which are grunts and berserkers. The grunts are not, they're kind of typical. We've got the berserkers as well, though, which are a pain in the ass. Though the grunts do have a little something that they call a rallying banner. Now this is a bit, but not entirely, like the war banners that, for example, Nazgrim employed. But these don't actually increase any sort of, attack or attack speed or damage or anything like that. They actually increase the actually, they don't increase anything. They actually start with a small circle and then quickly expands, which once the circle reaches another mob, which is not within aggro range, they immediately get aggroed, meaning that they're going to attack you, which is unpleasant. So yeah, they've got that. They also have a couple of wargs, which I'll get into soon. They've got this iron guy who basically just shoots buzzsaws at you. You got the lead belcher, which is basically a rifleman who just typically uses a rifle shot plus a incendiary shot, which I am not sure does either initial damage, but it also, at the very least, I do know that it is also using some, damage over time. So it's not that big, but it would be friendly to get healed. As you can see, there are also sentry cans set up. Now the black iron can actually activate these things to start doing damage to you, and they become hostile, so it's better to get rid of those quickly. You also have, as you can see, those warcasters are using that shrapnel effect, which is basically shooting buzzsaws at you. That is bolt of steel. They're not basically that difficult, but you might want to just consider what could happen if you let any. Definitely the main focus with these mobs, as soon as it gets planted, get rid of that rallying banner. If that stays up, you're going to get a whole lot of hurt in your face. Now, as you can see, the wargs are showing up. Now these mobs aren't particularly, they have a rend, but they also, as you can see, they have a, basically, as you could call it, a flurry cleave. Now it's not literally a flurry cleave, it's basically, one of those constant cleaving effects. It's basically easily shown with the dust showing up. So basically when you see that, you move away from that. The Warcaster also apparently does something like a mana bomb dropping at your feet. If you stay that, you take damage, and that's basically not a good thing, so you stay out of that. So yeah, that's basically what these mobs do. You get a few other ones along the way. So now that these mobs have been going through, let's talk about UBRS. Now, as we know, it's getting completely revamped. Basically, we've been given a small part of it. It's going to be completely shown to us, of course, when Warlords launches, which will be at the 15th of November. So, what exactly has happened here? Well, as we know, the Iron Horde has invaded for quite a bit. Now, as we know, mostly of this invasion is going on in the Blasted Lands. But a small contingency was able to work around all of the Horde and Alliance defenses, and instead of going for an offensive, they've actually joined up with the remaining true Horde, Garrosh's Horde forces that were located still on Azeroth, under the command of Warlord Zayla, whose pet we kicked, who of course we fought in the Siege of Orgrimmar. More specifically, we of course fought her little proto-drake pet called Galagras. We didn't actually directly fought her, so she actually came back. And now she's still working, and she's joined up with these Iron Horde members called the Black Iron, which is a contingency of the Blackrock Orcs, and the remainder of the Dragon Maw, who set up this base and are planning to unleash some sort of doomsday weapon on Azeroth. Now, basically a doomsday weapon is a bad thing, so we've been called in, and take care of it. And as you can expect, all the old bosses that we used to fight here throughout this, let's say, this part of the UBRS, which is still the same one, but let's just put it the parts we go through, because certain sections have simply been walled off to not make you run around in 100 different directions, which is possible within UBRS, if you ask me, but that's just me. So they've streamlined it a little bit more. Of course, as you can expect, all the old bosses are dead and there are new ones, which we'll get to see soon. So we got basically these mobs. So I decided to do this because I thought, hey, it would be cool to just show UBRS. Besides, I got that little quest line up really fast, so why not this too? It's not a particularly tough instance, although as you've seen probably already, we did die a few times. That was the first one, but we are going to die even more. You might be saying, you're noobs. Well, you need to understand, this is of course like day 2 for the Europeans into Warlords of into 6.0. So not everybody is yet used to the whole stat squish and the ability pruning thing, and of course the tweaking and balancing. So some of us are going to have to get used back to it. To be honest, Protection Paladins really didn't get a lot of drawback on it except losing a few abilities, which isn't, to be honest, not so bad, because I finally got back some space on my bars to put certain of the more key abilities and items under my hotkeys, which was a real necessity, to be honest. As you can see, this is basically a simple tank and spank trash mob. There is nothing really particularly you need to be afraid of. There are a few mobs later in, which once again, they don't particularly require a lot of tactics, but at least they make it sure that you need to stay awake. You can't just close your eyes and just start button mashing like you did like in the old days with mages. So there is still a little bit of thinking to this, and some importance. As you can see here, we see a known warlock who was draining life out of a can, and I don't know exactly how you can drain life out of something that is not alive, but hey, that's wild for you. So here we go for the last little mob. As you can see, there's also a little change, and as you can see on the right, it's like a sort of what they did with scenarios, showing you like objectives you had to go through. I'm thinking they're going to do this because they've also revamped some of the other 5-man classic instances. They're doing this probably because some of these instances, even some of the older ones, had like certain mechanics that you needed to do to progress through certain segments, like activate this, kill this many of these guys, or that sort of thing. So, but in the old days, you just had to figure it out. Though that's great for some people, it can be frustrating if you're consisting of an entire group of completely new people, which is, of course, a possibility of trying to draw in again. So they basically created that. So it basically started off with us having to deactivate those runes. Those runes have actually been present there before to open that door, but it used to be in the old one. This time they're highlighted a little more clear, and the bombs are a lot tougher. So there are 3 bosses you're going to fight here. The first one is Gorashan, which is a weird kind of electric mage, metal mage kind of guy. And then you got Kyrak, which is basically a Maloriak recreation. He's a pretty cool boss. He's interesting, I'll give it that. It's not particularly difficult, but hey, all these bosses tend to not do really anything super special, but at least they give you something that, once again, like I said, it requires at least some form of your attention. You can't just tank and spank most of them. They don't really require a lot. So here we got Gorashan. Now what does he do exactly? He doesn't do, his basic ability is Blades of Steel, which he just like those Warcraft, they simply they shoot the buzzsaws at you. Now his other ability, which he should be doing right about now, which is Shrapnel Nova, which is a Nova attack. This one does, as you can see, quite a bit of damage. I would recommend, if you're a Clawfie, just jump down and just not hit it. I'm expecting, because this is probably not, this is of course not a heroic version of the instance, is that thing could easily one-shot a Clawfie if you're not careful. So as you can see, for some reason, unfortunately, the Death Knight activated his Army of the Dead, and without the untaunting Army of the Dead, the guy just keeps twirling around like a dance. Like he's a freaking ballerina. And as you can see, he goes into a small little phase 2, as you could call it, which causes that he bends himself to one of those electrical irons, and he's completely immune in that process. So you need to deactivate them. But at the same time, as you've probably already seen in the background, that electric Nova thing is constantly rotating around the room, and as long as that thing is there, you're not gonna want to go. You do not want to stand it. I'm not expecting it to kill it at this mode, neither in the normal mode, but it will probably 1 or 2 shot you in heroic, which is a good thing. I'm expecting that. I want that from my heroics to at least show that the abilities are not to be trifled. And as you can see, he just keeps going and going, just using blades of steel, shrapnel over whenever he feels like it. It's a not very complicated fight, but still, it's pretty good. I don't think it's bad, not for a first boss. It's not particularly difficult. I'd say it's like a 5-man version of what you could. It's kind of on the same level as what you would expect from the first boss in a raid. Not particularly difficult, but still requires at least some form of what you expect for a 5-man. Now, as we can see, we've got new trash mobs here. Now, what we got here is a Black Iron Alchemist and a Black Iron Engineer, and then these Draconoid Monstrosities. Draconoid Monstrosities are the primary focus for the thing. He needs to pick these up. These things are nasty. They hit hard, and they got that eruption, which is a big frontline explosive thing, lava thing, I don't know. Now, not only does this massive damage, but it also disorients you, which is incredibly irritating. As you can see, there's an obvious telegraph that allows you to avoid it. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't I avoid that second one? Well, that's because of the engineer, which uses a constant beam of view called something like that, disability beam or something in that eye. Basically, he starts casting this and it starts out as a snare, and then that snare starts to stack up, and of course it probably increases damage, but that's what it was, debilitating, right? Now, not only does it, of course, it starts with slow, but it slowly starts to stack up until it reaches 10 stacks. When it reaches 10 stacks, you're rooted. You cannot move. And as long as that ability is still on, as you can see, the debuff is appearing right there. As long as that's active, you're rooted. You're not going anywhere. So you better take a... So if you're having trouble with these monstrosities, if the engineer is focusing on the tank, I would recommend using a interrupt or a stun on this guy. Because I'm expecting on heroic that 2 of those Draconoids are probably enough to... well, basically insta-kill you with it. I'm not expecting a one-shot from one of those eruptions, but 2 is probably a death sentence. Now we've got this Maloriac clone, which is called Kyrak. I don't know the lore behind him. He's not important. What is important is, as you can see, he's basically what you can expect. He's a Maloriac, and he's got a few interesting abilities, not particularly difficult. He also starts, as you can see, with these Draconoid Monstrosities, which requires that the tank make sure never to point these things at the freaking group, because you're gonna get pissed off at people. So you do that. People are just gonna get mad. Now, as you can see, Kyrak is now, of course, Kyrak himself is not without an ability or two. He doesn't do particularly much in this mode, but he's still pretty good, interesting. He's got something called debilitating fixation, which is actually a fixate, but combined with that debilitating ray, except it's not a snare that slowly builds itself up to a well, root. It's actually something that immediately roots you, and you need to interrupt it, because if he reaches you, you're dead. There is no way you're surviving that, as our healer, of course, found out. So, yeah, that's basically, you gotta interrupt it. You can't stun it, but you can't interrupt the ability since it's a channeled ability. So basically, just interrupt it, man. If you get hit by that, you are toast. Luckily, he never do this on the tank. And he tends to mostly only use this on ranged DPS, which is a good thing, because if you're melee, you're screwed. Because you're standing right in front of the guy, or behind him, or at the side. There is no way. And there's a slight cast time involved, but you've got to be quick if you want to stop, if you don't want him to one-shot you. So you better work quick. And as you can see, there's death number 2. There's going to be another death, which will be later on, of course. Not right now. It's not going to be on Kyrak. That would just be kind of... There was also a little bit of a focus problem with our group, because the damage was all over the place. What they should have done is, of course, focus first on those Draconoids, and then focus on Kyrak. Because Kyrak, though he is the boss, he doesn't do a massive amount of damage. It's... You could ignore it, but I wouldn't... It's not exactly that he does that much damage that the tank is going to feel it while he's being hit by those monstrosities, as well as Kyrak. It is basically designed to do that. Though, of course, Kyrak does do another ability, as you saw. He uses an ability that is called, I don't know, I'm simply going to call it Vile Corruption. It's something like that. Basically, he all of a sudden starts spewing poison globules out of himself onto the party, on the location of the party. Basically what he does is that he places these and then creates a toxic pool on the ground. Now these will stay there for a while. They're not actually time based, but on cast based. Now what I mean by that is that after a certain amount of times that the Kyrek does it, like for example, as far as I can tell, at the 4th time when he does it, or the 3rd, the first volley that he shot will disappear. So that's you could say that's a good thing, and yeah, it kind of is. But this is probably only for the normal mode, because again, this is a special 90 version, but it is still just a normal mode. This is not a heroic. But this is still, of course, nasty, because I'm expecting what they're going to do on heroic, that those things are not going to disappear. So this is going to require quite a bit of placement for the party. So I'm expecting this to be a pretty cool fight, to be honest. I'm expecting that he may also do some more abilities. I'm hoping he does more than that, because then either he does more or those dragons do more. I'm expecting that. I'm hoping that. That would be cool. So yes. So it's only like less than a month away until the War of the Dragon. I can't say I'm not excited, because it's gonna be pretty cool. As you can see, there go the globules. Simple as that. Simply move out of it. It's a base. If you think that seeing in green stuff is a good thing, then you're currently seeing a lot of things for healing things. Now, Warlords are going to be pretty cool. As you can expect, I've actually taken, as I should mention, I have a full daytime job, so I don't have time to record a lot. I would do more if I could. Also, I don't have that much space. I'm maybe considering getting more storage space for it, for this sort of thing, because I'm taking a lot more time with it these days, because I'm enjoying the break. But outside of that point, I'm taking a week off for my full-time daytime job in order to get this recording done as quickly as possible. I want to get as much starting stuff of Warlords out as quickly as possible, because Draenor is going to be pretty cool. It's a lot of story, a lot of interesting things to see. Now that was Kyrek. Now I didn't know where to go, and I should have actually checked for something, because as we know, as has been mentioned, there will be something particularly interesting here. Particularly, there's going to be Leroy Jenkins here. Either I don't know if he is in normal mode only dead, and that he's only there in heroic, or that it's in both cases, because I know he's going to be there alive at some point. Now we could take a look, but unfortunately I rotate the camera too much. But I'm not. I couldn't see. Sorry. But Leroy Jenkins is going to be here because, well, everybody knows who Leroy Jenkins is. Now, here's the next trash mob. These guys are not particularly... These are basically melee, but I accidentally pulled 2 mobs. It's not particularly difficult. Well, we did lose one guy, and they kind of are beating the crap out of the healer, but I was able to finally get some proper aggro on. As you should know, that I am a very, very experienced and highly skilled tank. As you can see more earlier in the beginning of the video, how I not activated Righteous Fury, and I was still able to hold aggro. A bit. Okay, not really that good. And as you can see, I've created macros, which allows me to go into full RP mode. Boosh! And I'm being protected, and boom! There we go. Protection has been granted. Now, we were luckily being able to stay alive and kill all these guys without, well, wiping. Because that would be kind of pathetic. Now, these are the first kind of mob that you're going to find here, but there's more. We're about to see another one. Now, these were basically all just veterans, as far as I can do, and Dreadweavers. Not particularly difficult. But the next one is a little bit more interesting, which is... a new ogre design. As you can see, this is the Black Iron Siegebreaker. Now this guy's just basically an easy tank and spank mob. All he does is that. He does a conal slam. It's a smash, but it's a conal. It's basically a cleave. I'm calling it a conal slam. It's a cleave. It's a cleave. It's a cleave. It's a cleave. Just don't think of it anything else. Now here comes the real tricky part. We've got 2. Ooh. Now again, very easy. I am facing, of course, near party members, but I'm expecting, come on, you can still do your damage while you're moving. You're not casters, so just move your ass. The shaman just doesn't give a shit and just tanks and just goes and just takes it all. So I drop my hammer, heals up a bit, and we slap the crap out of these things. They are not particularly difficult. They do go into an array, into a berserk mode, which of course increases damage, as we all know. They just become a pain in the ass, but again, not particularly difficult. So just in case things would go bad, and I don't think you want to pull both these ogres and a simple orc mob. So we decided to take this one down, and then we get another mob, which turns out with a little bit more of an interesting. It also shows off a new mob, which can get a bit of a pain in the ass if you let her have her way. I would recommend focusing on these guys first. Now, as you can see, we've got Black Iron Veterans, 2 of them. We've got a Black Iron Dreadweaver, which is just Shadow Bolts and something called Shadow Veil or something. And then, as you can see in the back, who is now finally realizing that they're being attacked, is the Summoner. The Black Iron Summoner isn't particularly that difficult. The fireballs are not particularly dangerous, but she does do a little bit of ability, which is a pain in the ass, which is that she actually summons a mob. Now, this isn't just some simple, easily impish little dude. This is actually one of the mobs that is part of the mob. This can be a Black Iron Veteran or one of those Dreadweavers, and it just adds more stress to the whole fight. It's just extending it. Nobody wants that, so you just gotta take care of that right away. Now, as you can see here, we're gonna fight the next boss. Now, this usually used to be Ren Blackhand, but as you know, he's dead. So, now we fight Commander Farback. Now, as you can see, they are spectating a little bit. Beside her is Warlord Zayla, which we are not going to kill her directly, but we are going to do that eventually. Now, this is kind of going into the idea of what used to be here, which was Ren Blackhand and Blackwing being here. And she actually makes a few comments in the direction that she actually says, kill the one in a dress. Which used to be something that Blackwing used to say. Which was just, when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that is just brilliant. She literally says that. Now, of course, this time it's, of course, voice acted, which makes it even better. Now, this isn't particularly, they basically go for the same mobs that we fought before, except for the Draconoids, to be honest, which I actually thought that was a bit of a... We also have these Rylax or Relax, I don't know how you want to call them. These aren't particularly difficult. These are just annoying. They spit poison and all that. Now, Warlord Zayla is just a bitch, to be honest. She doesn't only just make you pissed, but she basically constantly is pissed off at this Farback dude for his guys not being able to kill us. And she says things like, they're idiots, they can't do anything, they don't even know where the sharp end of a sword is. Or axe, or whatever, and I thought that was kind of funny. So, that was the second wave.
This is pitiful! Do your men not know where the sharp part of the axe goes?
I don't understand! Isn't Trugus fight with the fury of Grommash himself?
I will hear no more of these excuses! I am going to go.
And here comes the last wave. Now this one in particular was just annoying. We've got 2 of these Black Iron Summoners, we got 2 Black Iron Engineers, and then we have these freaking Veterans. This was just a pain in the ass. You get snared, you get rooted, you get these guys with an annoying shield slam, and then these fucking Summoners who start summoning in other dudes. Come on, that is just getting annoying as hell. It just adds a little shitload of trouble to your whole... to the whole bunch. Like I said, the Rylax that come with it, they're just AoE mobs. You just drop down everything you got. Drop your Blizzard, drop your Rain of Fire, drop your... I don't know, anything of AoE types and it will do the trick. Just don't bother really focusing these. Maybe a dot or 2. Maybe a dot on it, but please don't waste your time. Just... in the priority segment, I would put it like this. First take care of those summoners, then the engineers, then the veterans are completely... They're the tanking mobs. These are the mobs that should be tanked because they do quite a bit of melee damage, but it's all physical, so that's best, of course, being tanked by a tank. And second of all, they've got a shield slam. Now, I don't know if this actually does any sort of massive damage, but what I have noticed, it does a bazillion annoying amount of... Actually, I'm completely losing my train of thought. What I'm about to say, if it really works like a shield slam, it could most likely it's going to interrupt you, and then your particular spell school is completely blocked off. In which kind of, because of all the specialization these days, is a really bad thing. Now, as you can see, we needed to get our shit back together. We're actually using marks, which you could say is kind of pathetic for mobs, but these mobs are nasty. Considering, of course, with the stat squish, you need to stay on your toes. If you don't, you're dead. You're not gonna live. Trust me. You need to know how to focus, or else you're just either gonna get swarmed or whatever. Just for the tank, this isn't so difficult. Just draw the attention of the melee mobs and just let the damage dudes do what they do best. This isn't, like I said, it's not a particularly hard fight. You just need to know how to execute it, and the execution is everything. There's no need for planning. Just know what you're doing. You could say that with any fight, but come on, these are trash mobs. Well, usually, people have gotten way too used to just smacking these things down in a few seconds. Now it's actually requiring at least, once again, a little bit of tactics. But, like I said, it's not a particularly difficult fight. Just smack, 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 and dead. Now, like I said, it's really, as you can see, the debilitating ray is annoying on the tank, but luckily the tank doesn't move. He can easily taunt it, especially as a paladin. You just throw out your Avenger shield and bam, you got threat, and you got the aggro, and you got every dude you want to in your face, as it should be. But like I said, it's not a particularly difficult. But like I said, the shield smash could get a little annoying for casters. So just don't let that happen. Now here comes Commander Farback, and just like Red Blackhand, he doesn't start as Farback. He actually starts with a pet, with a mount. But it's not a chromatic Drake. It's a freaking Rylak, and it's a big one. Now he drops that thing down now, and it's basically it's not really much of a dragon fight. He does have fire breath, but I wouldn't call it a dragon breath because it's not a dragon. It's a Rylak. What's the difference between a Rylak and a dragon? Well, a Rylak has 2 hits. A dragon has 1. At least, naturally. So now, Farback particularly doesn't do that much special. He hits what you would expect from a boss, but he does more. He does a charge, and he also, as you can see, he does what he also does is a Nazgrim thing, which is not involving the rage mechanic this time, but it involves him that he throws a weapon, a flaming weapon that spins around and then goes around the room. This is bad. This hurts. As you can see, our caster and our healer, took quite a bit of damage. This is unfortunately where things tend to get a little annoying, because the Death Knight decided to bring out the army of the dead again, and she doesn't have the tauntless army out, so these guys constantly keep taunting this dude, and I couldn't get him back into the range of my Hammer of Light. So that basically kind of screwed up my plan. Now, as you can see, you might be wondering, who is this blue dragon? This blue dragon is actually used to be a blue dragon whelp that was here. It involves some sort of quest. I've never been able to do it because I never really got to that part of UBRS. But I understand it was pretty cool. But he's now full grown, and he's helping you with this fight, which I thought was pretty cool. Once again, a little notch towards the old vanilla thing. And that's something Blizzard does really well. There goes Farback down. He doesn't drop any loot. Was a bit disappointed, but I got a nice ring out of it. And that was basically it. That is UBRS revamped. And that's that. Now I decided, while we're here, I wanted to wave, but then I was like, wait, not wave. Let's admire the new models. Here we have a beautiful Night Elf, a beautiful Dreadeye, and the Death Knight was gone. So that's basically all that there is to UBRS. Hope you've enjoyed, and goodbye.